Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle something huge. We're connecting two of the most powerful ideas in the Christian faith. One is absolutely massive. It spans the entire universe. The other? Well, it gets as personal as it gets, zeroing right in on your own body. So, you've got this epic, grand statement about God's love for the whole world. And then you have this super intimate, almost shocking claim that your body is a sacred space, a temple. I mean, how do those two things even connect? Well, what if I told you they're not just connected, but they're actually two sides of the very same story? So here's how we're going to unpack this. We'll start big, at the cosmic scale, then we'll zoom right into the personal. We'll look at how this whole idea was a total culture shock back then, get into these surprising economics behind it, and then tie it all together to see what it all means. All right, let's jump in. We're starting with the big picture, the cosmic scale, and there's no better place to start than maybe the most famous verse in the entire Bible, John 3:16. But here's the thing, to really get what it's saying, we've got to do a little digging. We need to go past our modern translations and look at the original Greek. Yeah, this verse, you see it on signs at sporting events, right? It's everywhere. But our common understanding of it, the way we usually hear it, actually misses a huge piece of the puzzle. And it starts with the very first important word in the sentence. Okay, so that word is hautos. In English, it gets translated as so, as in, for God so loved the world. And we hear that and think, wow, he loved the world so much. We think it's about quantity, right? The amount of love. But that's not quite right. Hautos is really about the manner. It means in this way, or thus. So the verse isn't just saying God had a whole lot of love. It's pointing to a very specific action. It's describing how he loved, by giving his son. And this kind of love, this gift, it completely broke all the rules of the ancient world. See, back then, in Greco-Roman culture, you gave a gift to get something back. It was all about exchange. But this divine gift, it's given to the cosmos, a word John often uses to describe a world that's basically in rebellion against God. It's totally undeserved, it expects nothing in return, and the gift itself is just unbelievably generous. So, what was this incredible gift? The verse says God gave his monogenes son. Now, for hundreds of years, we've translated that as only begotten. But modern scholars have realized that's a bit of a mistranslation. The word actually comes from genos, which means kind or class. So a much better way to think about it is one of a kind or unique. It's not about birth order. It's about being totally incomparable. And here's a perfect example of this from elsewhere in the Bible. The book of Hebrews calls Isaac Abraham's monogenes son. But wait a second. Didn't Abraham have another son, Ishmael? And Ishmael was older, so Isaac wasn't the only begotten. He was the unique son, the one-of-a-kind son of God's special promise. And that's exactly the idea here. Jesus is the unique, incomparable Son of God. Okay, so we have this massive, cosmic-level gift, an incomparable Son given for the whole world. Now, get ready for a major shift in perspective. We're about to see how that massive gift lands in a shockingly personal, intimate place. We're zooming way in from the entire cosmos to the individual human body. Now, to really feel the impact of this, you got to know something about the Greek language. They had two main words for temple. First, there was hieron. That meant the whole temple complex, the outer courtyards, the places where anyone could hang out. But then there was naos. The naos was the inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, the place where the deity was actually believed to dwell. It was off limits to pretty much everyone. So when the Apostle Paul writes that a believer's body is a temple, which word do you think he chose? You guessed it. He uses naos. And this is an absolutely staggering claim. He's not saying your body is just part of the religious complex like the outer court. No, he's saying your body is the Holy of Holies, the innermost sacred space where God himself chooses to live. Think about what that means. The Shekinah glory, that tangible, weighty, visible presence of God that filled the tabernacle in the desert and later Solomon's temple, has relocated. It's moved. It's no longer in a building made of stone and gold in Jerusalem. Paul is saying it has taken up residence inside ordinary flesh and blood human beings. Wow. Now, we might hear this today and think, oh, that's a nice metaphor. But in the first century, this wasn't just a nice idea. It was explosive. It was utterly revolutionary. It was a full-on clash with the most popular philosophies of the time.
See, the dominant Greek mindset, coming from guys like Plato, had this saying, soma sema. It means the body is a tomb. The idea was that your physical body was basically a worthless, temporary prison for your pure, eternal soul. So what you did with your body? Who cares? It didn't really matter spiritually. But Paul comes along, it just flips that entire worldview on its head. He says, nope, the body isn't a tomb. It's a nous. It's a redeemed vessel for God.
And believe me, this was not some abstract philosophical debate for them. Paul was writing to people in Corinth. And Corinth was, well, it was basically the Las Vegas of the ancient world. It was a major port city, famous for its wild parties and sexual freedom. It had this huge temple to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and prostitution was just a totally normal, accepted part of the culture. So imagine Paul walking into that city and telling people, hey, by the way, your bodies are the Holy of Holies? That wasn't just teaching, that was a direct cultural collision.
So we've got the cosmic gift and the personal sanctuary. How do they connect? Where's the bridge between these two huge ideas? Well, the connection becomes crystal clear when Paul starts using the language of the marketplace.
Paul tells the Corinthians, you were bought with a price. The Greek word he uses is agorazo, and that word literally means to buy something in the agora, which was the open-air marketplace. Now, think about Corinth. It's estimated that maybe 2/3 of the people there were slaves. So when they heard the word agorazo, their minds would have gone to one place immediately, the slave market.
And this wasn't just a metaphor. It tapped into a real-world practice they all knew about called sacred manumission. It worked like this. A slave could painstakingly save up their own money and deposit it in the treasury of a local temple. Once they saved enough to buy their freedom, a priest from that temple would take the money, go to the slave's master, and officially purchase the slave for the temple's god. So what happened? The person was now free from their human master, but legally, they now belonged to that god.
Okay, now you see it, right? This is the connection. The incredible cosmic gift from John 3:16, God's one-of-a-kind son. That was the purchase price. It's what buys the slave. This whole thing is about a radical transfer of ownership. A believer is purchased out of the slave market of sin and brokenness, and now belongs completely to God. That's why Paul can say so bluntly, you are not your own. So, what's the point of all this? Why this incredible grand design that goes from the whole cosmos right down into our bodies? It all comes down to one single powerful purpose, a call to action. And that call is to glorify God in your body. The Greek word for that is doxazo. Now, glorify can sound a little abstract. It doesn't mean we're adding something to God that he doesn't have. That's impossible. It means our job is to make his true character visible, to put his goodness and nature on display for the world to see, right here in our physical lives.
And because the body has been bought at such a high price, and because it is literally the Holy of Holies where God's Spirit lives, every single thing we do with it suddenly has eternal weight. Every physical action becomes one of two things. It's either an act of worship that reflects the character of the God living inside, or it's an act of desecration of his holy temple. Which brings us right to the heart of it all, this entire incredible story, stretching from the vastness of the cosmos right down to the cells in your body. It leaves us with one profound question we all have to answer for ourselves. If this grand story of the universe truly finds its home inside of you, what story is your body going to tell?